Guys, so I wanted to do a YouTube video, and today we are discussing the Turpin family. To give some context, January 14th, 2018, Hawaii was in a panic because they received an emergency message of an incoming ballistic missile. Civilians were in fear, huddling for their lives, only to discover it was a false alarm. An employee had just hit the wrong button during a very routine drill. Like, I hope that employee's okay. It was his mistake, but don't we all deserve a second chance? I don't know. Maybe he had chances. I still don't think the dude meant to send a missile alarm. No one suspected that during this date and time that the town of Riverside, California would soon become the center of a huge and horrific true crime case. Before I launch into the events that started a police investigation into the Turpins, I would first like to give as much history and background on the family as was publicly available. I tried hard, guys. I even tried hitting up the police department. I couldn't get the police records, but we press forward. So, David Turpin was first brought to the Riverside Police Department's attention in 2018, but he was born October 17th, 1961. In Parisburg, Virginia, he most likely met his wife Louise when they both attended Princeton in 1985. Reportedly, and sad to say, there was a lot of sexual abuse in Louise's family. Her sister came forward and stated that abuse was perpetrated by their maternal grandfather. And it's not entirely clear how much Louise was a victim by her grandfather or other alleged perpetrators, but I think this is safe to assume it's a house with hidden sexual abuse and incest, as much as we may hate to say that word. Cycles like this are often carried down generationally, and it's my opinion that an environment like this could perpetuate the cycle of abuse. And as I continue to share with you the events that led to Louise and David's arrest, I hope that maybe you'll agree with my hypothesis. Upon further research, I also discovered that Louise's sister Teresa detailed the horrific childhood abuse that they went through. I'm talking that their mother sold them to a rich man who habitually abused them, allegedly for months, years. It's hard to know the exact timeline when you're a victim. Suffice to say, it was very bad. They were being trafficked as children. I really tried to dig deep and find an explanation for how their wedding even happened, and I found a really illuminating article that discussed how Louise's father was more upset that they weren't allowed to have a proper wedding. Not that his child is marrying an adult. No, 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 no. They were just concerned that she didn't have a proper church wedding. So that was done, and then Louise was just punted out of her house and told, have fun with your new husband. And the thing I find really sad about this is that, children are worth so much more. David and Louise, her new husband, were followers of what was called the Quiverful movement. And this is a branch of Christianity which has several doctrines, some of which coincide with taking certain Bible verses to a very extreme place. They believe that children are blessings from God, which I believe they are too. But however, they believe that birth control it's a sin. You can't. No. If God wants you to have a baby, you're having another baby. No questions asked. You don't get to stand in the way of God's plan. So serious stuff, right? You don't want to get in the way of God and his plans. Most Protestant branches of the Christian faith do not believe that birth control is a sin. I believe the Catholic faith actually recently acknowledged that it's not a sin to plan your family in the way that you can afford. Children deserve to be cherished, they deserve to be loved, and they also deserve to be born into a home that can financially provide for them. I actually researched this quiverful movement because it really got to me. I kind of grew up in a more fundamentalist Christian background, not to that intensity, but it made me want to delve deeper. So I actually discovered the Duggar family, like from the TLC show, 19 Kids and Counting. I think it's 21 now. Who knows? Point being, this family was also plagued by allegations of sexual and emotional abuse, as well as incest, brothers assaulting fellow siblings, nasty stuff. And I think if you go too fundamentalist too far in any direction, this is bound to happen. It's not that faith is wrong. It's not that any belief is wrong. Just don't take it to 1,000%. I don't know. Just please don't be angry at me. I know I'm probably being offensive right now. The Turpins are married. We're off of my tangent. They had 13 kids back to back. I know that you know how hard it would be to carry one child for 9 months, 9 out of 12 months of the year, 3/4 of the year. You're knocked up. This woman, the Turpins chose to give all of their children names that began with the letter J. They thought that was cute. I get it. I do think that it's fair to take into account the mental and emotional impact that having that many children back to back can have on any human being. I do seriously question if Louise was struggling with postpartum psychosis, this strange beliefs, hallucinations, feeling very irritated, very angry, hyperactive, and inability to sleep. It's horrible. Rapid mood swings, difficulty even communicating how you're feeling. Even if we take the postpartum psychosis into account, I still can't vibe with the idea that you would allow such horrific abuse to occur. And when I get into it, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. January 2018, like I set the scene at the beginning of this video, the Paris Police Department receives a phone call from a girl who is frantic. She's losing it. Her siblings have been chained to their beds, that she even said in the phone call that there was such a horrific stench in the house that she sometimes felt as if she couldn't breathe or she was just going to vomit. The identity of this very courageous young girl was Jordan Turpin. She had somehow managed to get a hold of an old deactivated cell phone Louise had used to have. Deactivated cell phones can often still contact 911 because they want people to be able to contact emergency services no matter what. It makes sense. She took this phone, she stuffed some pillows into her bed to make it look like there was a body laying down if her parents checked, and she jumped out of a second-story window. I can imagine, like, people like to dramatize things in the headlines. I don't think that she literally just jumped from a second story. She could have. I more likely think that she just kind of climbed out onto the roof and shimmied her way down, hung off the edge of the roof, and let go. It's still quite a way to fall, but if you're an adventurous kid, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the only crazy girl who thought I could jump off my roof with an umbrella, but I thought I could, and I thought I would float like Mary Poppins. This girl, she's hysterical. She's got police on the phone, and she mentions that basically she's terrified for her siblings because they are chained up, and she doesn't know what her parents will do when they discover that she is gone. When police arrived, they thought that this girl was approximately 12, 13, and they were horrified to discover that she was actually 17. The oldest of the daughters, from what I was able to read online, was 28, 29, and even they thought she was still a teenager because she was so malnourished. She weighed approximately 90 some pounds. Like, I don't think any of us can comprehend that level of deprivation or abuse, and I think we can only honor the souls that survived such a horrible experience. And that's why I wanted to tell the story, because I think it matters. I think it matters very much. It can be used as a lesson and to help us understand how to prevent such atrocities from happening in the future. So, police described the house as being in a state of squalor when they arrived. The children had been strangled, beaten, imprisoned, chained up. It was clear that the children, for the most part, understood very little about how the outside world even functioned. They didn't understand what police were. They didn't understand checkups or going to a doctor. Many of them hadn't been to a doctor in over half a decade. And that's pretty awful. There's no excuse for that, honestly. Like, no. So Louise had been saying that she was homeschooling the children. Most of them lacked beyond a first grade education. Thanks. Don't go into becoming a teacher. I don't think it's your career path. One of the most horrific details that I found about this case was that police noted there was feces and urine on the carpet. And according to reports, the Turpin parents would not even allow their children to use the restroom. So, in fact, they were forced to defecate or urinate on the carpet. And that's, once again, absolutely disgusting. I just don't understand people like this. Like, okay, I can kind of wrap my head around murderers. You want to kill somebody, you kill them. It's a crime of passion. Not saying it's cool, nor that it's okay, because it's not. But at least it makes a bit more sense, right? Stuff like this, just torturing people until they die, that just seems, I don't know, that's a level of sadism that I cannot comprehend. The children were actually forbade to interact with one another. If they broke this rule, they were chained back up and not allowed to eat. Exercise was also punished if they caught them stretching, exercising, anything. They were told, go lay back down in your bed. And the daughter who made the 911 call spoke of how horrific it was laying in that bed in fear of being strangled or beaten, smelling in the ammonia from your own urine and your siblings and the feces. It was hell. It was also noted by many of the children's psychologists that David and Louise would purposefully not replace batteries and smoke detectors. Meaning that, like, if you have a smoke detector, you probably know how this works. If the batteries are running low, it will go beep beep every 30 seconds to a minute. Oh, yeah, that's my bird. Beep beep. He gets it. So, really fucking annoying if it's going on for hours and hours and hours. They would purposefully pull out these batteries to torture their children while they had them chained up in bed. I have to try to control my rage towards these people. Anywho, a really puzzling factor in this case also is that the family tried really, really hard, and by the family I mean David and Louise. David and Louise tried really hard to maintain some sense of normalcy online via their Facebook accounts. They even went so far as to do a whole remarriage ceremony in Las Vegas. They posted photographs of a family trip to Disneyland. In fact, allegedly, the couple even purchased Disney passes for the family, according to one of their own children, Joy's statements in court that she made on their behalf. My confusion regarding the statement that Joy made is the children were reportedly only allowed to take one bath per year. And an individual who worked with the children while they were recovering from this horrific abuse said, they still can't look at peanut butter or bologna. I made the mistake of mentioning peanut butter during one of our meet and greets, and one of the girls almost threw up. And when they're at the grocery store, they can't look at peanut butter. They can't even go down to the aisle where there is peanut butter. I wasn't able to confirm what this quote exactly meant, but I can use some guesswork. I would assume a family with 13 children, you're probably going to make them sandwiches, especially if you're neglecting your kids and you just want to give them the bare minimum not to kill them. So it sounds like they were only fed variations of peanut butter and jelly or bologna sandwiches. So I don't blame those children for wanting to vomit if they see peanut butter or bologna. I would want to as well. That's, once again, horrible. As the brood was growing, David and Louise decided, yo, we want to pick up from Texas and move all the way out to California. This is going to be great. It wasn't great, if you hadn't guessed. I have a hard time because I understand how messed up these things can be with family. It can go so many different ways, and it can be so exhausting trying to parse through what is true, what is feeling, what is emotion, what is fact, and everything that I've just described transpired while they were in California. One of the couple's daughters, she was only listed as Jane Doe number 4, and she said that her parents had taken her whole life away from her, but now she was taking it back. She was in college, she has independency, and she has friends. She believes everything happens for a reason, but she fought to become the person she is. And she watched her father change her mother, that they almost changed her, but she realized what was happening and immediately did what she had to do to never become like them. She said she was a fighter, she was strong, and she was shooting through life like a rocket. I admire that girl. Whoever wrote that, I admire you. I really was kind of going back and forth between how sadistic David and Louise were. I don't want to absolve them of any blame because they deserve it. They did that. Like, you did that. That was your choice. That was your life. Okay, good on you. David Turpin tried to claim during his sentencing that he never intended any harm for his children. No, no, no. However, firsthand testimony from one of his children tells a vastly different story, one that says that his daughter was forced to watch her pet cat be devoured by dogs. You heard me. She was caught stealing or taking food from the fridge or pantry, which isn't stealing. That's called being in your home and being hungry. But okay, David, cool with your delusion. Not cool, actually. You're in jail. Good on you. Don't want you out to the free public. And Louise actually put the cat outside and forced their daughter to watch as the dogs tore it apart and killed it. And that kind of destroyed the last little shred of empathy I had for Louise. You let a cat be murdered. You let dogs tear it apart. Not only that, you made your child watch. Louise, no. David, no. I swear to God, some people should not be allowed to become parents. So, like, the concept of torturing an animal in that way is already incomprehensible and just disgusting. But to force your child to witness it, oh my gosh, it's another level. That denotes a level of sadism that I don't think David Turpin was ever or will ever be willing to admit to. I fully believe that his statements were made just to avoid a harsher sentencing before the court. 25 to life, David. I'll never see you on the outside. Bye. This whole story is very complicated, and I think it begs several questions. Is a life worth living if you're born into such monstrous and horrible circumstances? I think many of the Turpin children would say, yes, life is always the preferable choice. And one of the older children actually is quoted saying, I cannot describe in words what we went through growing up. Sometimes I still have nightmares of the things that happened, such as my siblings being chained up, beaten, But that is the past, and this is now. I love my parents and have forgiven them for the things that they have done to us. David and Louise were sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, and I really appreciated what the judge chose to say. Her name was Judge Schwartz. She said that children are a gift to society as well as their parents and family, and basically that they should be cherished. And that really hit home to me. The idea that no matter how horrific a circumstance a child is born into, they're still deserving to be treated as an equal member of society. Louise stated during her sentencing that she was sorry for everything she had done to hurt her children, and that she believes God has a special plan for each of them, and she loves them more than they ever could imagine. Sorry, Louise, you let a cat get torn apart by animals and don't give a fuck what you have to say. On one hand, you could argue Louise was groomed by a much, much older man who encouraged her to have many children in succession, a common cause of postpartum psychosis. However, I think it is also fair to question how any mother could take part in abusing her own children. They claimed they were afraid of having them taken from them, but okay, if you can't financially afford your children, maybe they need to be taken from you. So that tells me that you're valuing yourself, your identity, over the lives that you have created. And I really wanted to understand the dynamics that led this family into such a horrific situation. The Turpin children have done their best to maintain anonymity and start over. Out of respect to them, please don't seek them out or try to verify their identities. We all deserve a fresh start. We all deserve to be allowed to start over. And ultimately, I think I was called to this story because it tells us that we can always start over and begin again. So if you stuck with me this far, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to try to upload more videos analyzing stuff like this, but either way, catch you next time.